AI has been around, what, 15, 16 years. I think what's happened in the last year now, GPT has suddenly, and OpenAI and ChatGPT has suddenly brought everything to the forefront. GPT got to 100 million users in 2 months. And why was that? Well, first of all, I think A, it was easy. You went and you typed something, but B, the results were staggering. You could type in and go, give me the lyrics for a country song about this, and it would actually go and generate that. And GPT is just very good at working out what the next best word is. So I spend quite a lot of time on the conference circuit at the moment. And the first thing is that people think of GPT, the potential of GPT, through the eyes of what they can do with ChatGPT over the last 6, 9, 12 months. And the analogy I like to use is the car analogy there. So everyone out here can probably drive. There's a Honda Accord, fantastic car. And that's what it's like not using GPT at all. Some of us have been lucky enough to drive like that Porsche GT3 on a track, and you're staggered by the levels of grip, the acceleration. You just can't believe actually how fast a car will go round a corner. And you think, okay, I now understand what the world of a Formula One driver is like. And that's sort of where we all are. We think with ChatGPT, we've seen what the future looks like. And then you walk off the pits and you bump into Lewis Hamilton, the Formula One driver, and he goes, no, you just don't understand what the futures look like. On the right-hand side, there's a picture there of the steering wheel of a Formula One car. Somewhere on there is a button called the launch control. How you actually get it off the from the pits or from the starting line. None of us could even get the car off the track without stalling. And I think that's really where we are with GPT. We're at the very, very early stages. And I think the first danger is that if people think about the potential of GPT through the eyes or through their experience of what ChatGPT can do. The other analogy is we're still at the flip phone stage. We're nowhere near where an iPhone now is. So we are really at the very, very early stages. It's not quite the Wild West, but actually it's very unstructured. I think people are still finding out what use cases work, what don't work. And we need to try and cut through some of that and work through to, okay, what as leaders should we be worried about? And how can we support our teams in terms of what they're currently doing with GPT? So I think when we think about ChatGPT at the moment, we tend to think of it as Google on steroids. We'll ask it a question, it comes back with the answers. And the better the question, the better we ask the question, the more complete the question we ask, the better the answers. If you just said to your intern who's bright and excited, book me a restaurant, they come back and they book your restaurant, they booked you into the Italian restaurant for next Tuesday. They go, no, I know, I really wanted a restaurant for next Thursday. And we seem to have that conversation back and forth with GPT. If you said to your intern, I'm entertaining a client, they like Indian food and they like Chinese food, we're driving and I'd like a table in a private room for 4, that's a good prompt. Suddenly the internet can come back and go, right, if I know that you're driving, so we need parking space, I know when and I think we need to get to a point where we're asking better prompts. So that's the first thing. Prompts need to be longer, but need to be a lot more explicit to get some of the benefits out of it. And that is a new skill. Call it prompt engineering, but there's actually more to prompt engineering than that, and I'll explain that in a moment. But the other thing that GPT is very good at, it's very good at solving puzzles if you give it all the puzzle pieces. Now, a slight challenge is that the limitation on the amount of information you can give it. But you could give it, I know, a contract and then say, okay, I want to terminate this contract against these 4 bullet points, and it will write a reasonably good termination letter if you give it all. So rather than trying to get it to use its knowledge of the world and knowledge of history, instead think about it actually as using its ability to reason and then come back with text. And it's really, really good at doing that. So think more about how you give it the puzzle pieces than ask it to solve the puzzle. And that's actually where I think we're getting into a bit more of prompt engineering, or certainly where you're seeing applications embedding AI into them, where they've already thought about, I'm asking GPT to do something in the context of my application. It knows where to get the puzzle pieces. It's now simply using GPT as the back end to solve those puzzle pieces. And I mean, an easy example is our world, elements.cloud. If you map out a business process using the Salesforce UPN standard, Universal Process Mapping Notation, AI, our GPT application, will write really, really good user stories with acceptance criteria and also test scripts. Also, because we know what's in your org, because we pulled all the metadata, AI can then look at the acceptance criteria and then work out which metadata you could reuse or which metadata needs to be new. So again, solving what would take 8 hours manually could be done in 5 minutes. But before we start getting worried about losing jobs, or actually the COE leaders going, great, well, we don't need anyone in the team, we need to think about what's actually happening here. First of all, we need to delegate, we can't abdicate. We can't ask GPT to do anything we can't do ourselves, because we then can't validate the answers. I think everyone's heard of the term hallucination. AI is very good. It's rather like the male 22-year-old intern, and I deliberately use the word male because they are never in doubt, but not necessarily right. It gives very convincing answers, which may not necessarily be correct. So you need to make sure you, A, delegate the work, scope it correctly, but secondly, you need to validate whether the answers that's come back with are correct. And I think we're still in the early stages of understanding the use cases where it works really, really well and there's less hallucination. We're going to see new skills, not new roles. So we won't see the role of a prompt engineer, the same ways we don't have in our organizations the job of Google search engineer. But I do think everyone needs Google search skills, the same way as we all will need prompt engineering skills. But I think what AI is doing is it's highlighting that some of the things we know we ought to be doing and don't do very well, it's highlighting the importance of those. So message here is, first of all, FOBO at the top there, fear of being obsolete. I think that's a very valid fear for all of us. We need to stay current. We need to understand the implications of new technologies coming in and what it means for ourselves, but also for our teams. But don't think about hiring new roles. Think about actually how the skills we need to generate inside our organization. And I think this is about career development, which is where we started this. And then think about how you delegate. You can't just go, GPT gave me the answer. We need to think about how we delegate the question to make sure we get the right, in a way that we get decent answers back. So first of all, let me just think very briefly about the sorts of skills we need to create. The first is prompt engineering, which is something we haven't had before. So the idea of writing a prompt. And again, back to my analogy of the Porsche versus a Formula One car, a prompt isn't just like a Google search with a little bit more. There's actually quite a lot more involved in this. First of all, we need to, a prompt can actually be quite detailed. It could be almost like an email template. Inside our own organization, we're using templates for prompts where we're inserting, say, 3 or 4 bullet points in different places. And that prompt is then writing a website for us, our internal website for all our new features and functionality. So there's a website aimed at our customer success, marketing and sales teams, so they get early sight of functionality. That website is built by GPT using some templated prompts, which our product management team have optimized and revised over time. So that's the first thing. A prompt isn't just what you type in. You could actually have templates which you reuse. So that's the first thing. I think the second thing which is interesting is that when you test that prompt, the result you're going to get could be different when it's done today versus a week's time versus a month's time, because that prompt is hitting a large language model, which could be optimized, being trained, could be being refined. So unlike where I know we write a flow and it executes the same every time, with a prompt, it could change over time. So we need to start monitoring it for drift. We also need to make sure that when our teams are using the result of the prompt, that we understand how much they have to modify it. So we understand how good that prompt was. If it generates, say, an email that we send out to a customer, and then the service agent or the support agent has to make loads of changes to it, maybe the prompt needs to be refined. Is that prompt even being used? Or is it being used with no changes whatsoever, which would be quite concerning? So again, there's some monitoring of prompts that we probably would never do in terms of code or say a flow, so declarative code. And then the other thing, we need to worry about dependencies. So if that prompt is using, say, metadata from our Salesforce system or a third-party system like Data Cloud, if that metadata gets changed the prompt will still work. So we need to understand when we're actually making changes to metadata, does a prompt use it? Almost the same way as does an email template use it, except there's a bit more at stake now if that prompt is using a large language model to make some changes or decisions based on the data coming out of that metadata. So think of prompts as certainly code, but actually almost a riskier set of code than maybe a Flow or Apex. So that's a new skill. The other 4 items on there are things that we should ordinarily be doing, but maybe it probably doesn't have the level of importance as we probably should allocate to it. But AI punishes mediocrity. If you've got poor data, it will give you poor results really quickly. If you haven't done very good business analysis, so the way AI is reading those business process maps, it won't give you very good user stories. And what we've discovered over the last couple of months of using Elements GPT is we've looked at the user story and go, oh, that's not very good. That was GPT. And then we went back and looked at the process map and went, that wasn't a very good process map. We actually didn't set it up very well. How often are we actually giving poor user stories to our development teams because we haven't thought about the business analysis? So it's suddenly making business analysis way more important because now AI is reading that documentation we're creating. It's not just a user. And quite often when I'm presenting, I talk about AI reading either process documentation or even metadata descriptions. Is it going to be confused or disappointed? No longer have we got an individual or person there understanding the nuance, understanding the assumptions, understanding those weird acronyms that are specific to your company. When AI is now reading your business analysis documentation, it's reading it literally. And therefore, the results are based on us following some well-known standards. So UPN for process mapping. The user story has a set format. ERDs, entity relationship diagrams, data flow diagrams, all have some standard industry formats. We need to be following those. And as an organization, we created something called MDD, metadata description definitions. So if you're going to document your metadata, let's work out the best way of documenting so AI can read it. Because what we've discovered is with good descriptions, it can come up with some really good recommendations. With no descriptions, it's okay, but it's not nearly as good as when it's got good descriptions. So the last bullet point on their documentation, that's suddenly become more important than the quality of the documentation. Architecture, again, always important, but suddenly the architecture of our systems is not just our internal Salesforce system and maybe the other internal systems that it connects to. But if we're now touching a foundational model, a large language model, suddenly that architecture got way more complicated. Salesforce is putting in place the Einstein trust layer so that we've got some confidence that our data isn't being sent to a large language model. But we're now relying on yet another moving part inside the whole of our ecosystem, inside our IT stack. Plus, of course, we're using a large language model, which is potentially outside, or we have our own large language model, which we bring inside. So again, there are a lot more moving parts, and understanding the architecture of what we're building, and if we make changes to any of those, then the interdependencies becomes really important. These things we're talking about, we should be doing anyway. It's just AI is forcing us to do them. We're realizing we haven't done a particularly good standard. Yeah, we've got all these fields, but actually, have we got decent data governance on the critical fields that are maybe in our dashboards that our executives are looking at? Have we even done that? Probably not. AI is going to be looking at those same fields. So I also, because I've been around change projects for 20 years, I'm always looking for that catalyst, that reason for executives to go, yeah, we should fund this. Yes, we will support you. We will give you the sponsorship. And I feel AI is that point where we can go, if we're going to benefit from AI, we've got to get our act together in certain areas. And this is the opportunity to get the buy-in from senior executives to do the things we knew we wanted to do, but we never got the time to do. Oh, documentation, we haven't got time for that. Now we have. Oh, don't worry about architecture. We'll fix that later. You can't. Yeah. Well, don't worry about. There's that classic cartoon, which is you start coding, and I'll go and ask the users what they need. Big issue is that people don't spend enough time understanding what they really should be building before they build it. And hopefully AI will shorten the time it takes to help understand what should be built. and then we can use this as the excuse to get projects funded correctly. So let's turn our thoughts to the Centre of Excellence and what this means. You've heard probably enough about me, but let me just go. And I've also looked at these 13 pillars of a Centre of Excellence. So before everyone goes, well, hang on, we haven't got 13 people, we can't have 13 pillars. Again, these are a set of skills that you need inside your organization around a COE. And let me just run through them very quickly. So vision. So who's driving the strategic vision, the direction for Salesforce from both the business and the IT perspective? And that's different from leadership. Leadership's the steering committee, the key sponsors who again, are then validating and setting that direction. Governance is about the business case, the investment, risk management. Is about the overall control of the strategic direction, which is different from change control, which is a lot more tactical. That's management of changes to all aspects of the program, whether that's code changes or changes to training material or changes to org charts. Methodology. Okay, this is your implementation methodology, and that's how, covers like people, process, technology. So think about it as the business analysis piece, DevOps, adoption, monitoring. So that how do you drive changes? You don't implement once, but how do you drive changes around that cycle? Standards is, I know we just talked about documentation standards and business analysis, but it's metadata naming, it's coding standards, testing standards, standards for training, standards for change management. So again, setting some standards that make it easy so people aren't writing documents and recreating things from first principles. Metadata management, okay. Every Salesforce now is run on metadata. If you don't have a good handle on that, metadata management is as important as managing the code. Architecture, clearly we're now building complex systems which are interdependent, and we need to make sure we think about the technical architecture, but also how it relates to the integrated systems. And then security, which leads me to security. Security needs to be architected in. It's way harder to try and actually do it after the fact, and we need to think about security and performance and architecture hand in hand. Change management. Okay, this is the people change management as opposed to the code change management, which I think comes under change control. So this is about how do you change the hearts and minds? How do you think about organizational structure? How do you make sure the training is there to put the skills in place, not just Salesforce skills, but I know the domain skills, the business skills, and obviously think about AI skills. A PMO. So this is your program management office or project management office, which is managing the overall program, making sure that we're delivering against the targets that earn value. Tooling. Okay, what are the platforms, the tools that we use? Not everything that you need comes in the box when you buy Salesforce. You need business analysis tools, data quality, DevOps, backup, restore. So there's a set of tooling that you need to run Salesforce, and they either need to be built or you need to be buying them from third parties. And the last one on the list is innovation. So how do you foster innovation and spot it that's in certain areas of your organization and org? And how do you then build that up, operationalize it, and then reapply it across other orgs if you've got a multiple org implementation, or just make sure that you're getting the collaboration to get that innovation and make it operational? That's a huge list I've gone through, and many of you going, hang on, fine, we're a relatively small org, this feels like overkill. So what we've done is we've put together what we think are the most important items if you're small. And by small, it doesn't necessarily mean not very many users. You could be a small wealth management operation, a VC, a private equity firm, not very many users. But actually, the complexity means you essentially fall into the large bucket. So it's sort of small, low complex versus large, high complex. And we've looked at this and tried to go, okay, which things do you have to have in place if you're if you're at the lower level of complexity? So some leadership, metadata management, architecture, security, and so on. Obviously, when you get to the top end, and you would expect to have all of those aspects in place. Which ones I think are impacted by AI directly? And the reason I want to do this is some of those things where if you're small, or smaller, maybe that's suddenly because of AI, they're now fitting into the mandatory box. If we are starting to use AI to maybe write emails inside a page layout for sales, maybe suddenly that governance has become way more important than actually just the whole idea of actually we're not doing anything very complicated because we've only got 5, 10 users or 50 users or 100 users. Fine, we've got some email templates. But suddenly, with AI, change control, governance, the methodology about how we're going to control those prompts, metadata management, all of those things have suddenly become way more important because it's forcing us to put in those disciplines in place. But secondly, we've added a whole set of extra risks into our org because we've got prompts hitting a large language model, which is outside our control. If you let it get out of control, it can kill a reputation so quickly. So I think one of the things on the bottom there, innovation is typically, only when we're a large organization can we think about innovation. I think that innovation piece is really important. I mean, we're not a huge organization in Elements.Cloud, but we had an all-hands call yesterday, Thursday, and the topic was AI. And what we wanted to do was not tell our employees how AI works or educate them, but instead it was an open forum and said, okay, let's go around each of the different business units and talk about how you're using AI and what's working, what's not working. So we actually used it as a collaborative forum. And I think the role of a COE in terms of AI, first of all, is acting as that innovation hub. How do you get different teams to collaborate? Because even if you say our organization is not using AI, you know that individuals are. You know that people are playing in the margins. If they're not thinking about it, they're about to think about it. There are people outside looking, using, testing, playing. And the Center of Excellence is the perfect way to get those people together and find out who are the people who are passionate and out there doing things versus those people who are sitting on the sidelines going, maybe it won't work for me. So I think in amongst all the hype, we need to try and find what the sweet spots are, because AI won't solve every problem for every person. And I think the way I'm seeing it is we need to find the intersection between, is there a really strong return on investment? Can I get a 50x, a 20x improvement? So with us, we're seeing 100x improvement building those user stories. But the second one is, can it actually be implemented? If you've got to have gigabytes of data that's all perfect, then that's probably not achievable. Again, back to our story, if you can write a process map, boxes and lines in the UPN standard, you can immediately get that benefit. So can we find a sweet spot where it can be easily adopted? And then I think the other piece is, and we touched on it slightly earlier, which is, are the results consistent enough to be usable? There's no point going, 60% of the time it gets the right answer. If you have to check every single line of everything, then probably not worth using. And a sweet spot there is code. It's very good because it's hoovered up lots of code. It's quite good at writing code. It's actually quite good at looking at legal documents because it's got lots of legal documents that it's read, and therefore it's quite good at interpreting them. So there are certain places you can look to where it's very good. I mean, writing lyrics for songs, because there's no right answer for a song. Again, not relevant to us, but there are certain places where there is that sweet spot, and that's where I think OpenAI and ChatGPT has taken off. But as COE leaders, we need to start thinking about our innovation hub. How do we start to find those sweet spots?